Hello, everybody. So we are going to start the next topic, which is the balance on multiple unit processes, and this is going to be an extension to what we did before. And so what we did before was the mass balance on single unit, and we saw how we can do the degrees of freedom analysis, and we saw how important the degrees of freedom analysis was. So what we are going to do now is apply the same concepts on a process that consists of more than one unit. And this is going to be the same thing, but we will see how the degrees of freedom would be much more useful in this case compared to the case of a single unit. But before there is a point that is very important that I want to make, which is uh, the definition of the system. So this flow sheet that we see here is a flow sheet that we saw before when we were discussing the derivation of the mass balance equation. And we said that we can apply the mass balance equation on any system, and we give examples to different things. So the mass balance equation can be applied to a system which is a portion of a process that can be enclosed within a hypothetical box or boundary. And just to give some examples, if you look at this flow sheet here, it consists of three units. We have multiple inputs, multiple outputs, and from what we can see here, we can have different options. One of them is to apply the mass balance process on the mass balance equations on the entire process. So our system is what is inside this green loop. And in this case, we don't care about the intermediate streams inside the loop. We just care about the streams that intersect or cut the boundaries. So I care about this in one, in two, out two, and out three. There's another option is to apply the equation, the balance equations on a system which is combination of more than one unit. It's like unit one and unit two, and they have to be interconnected. So there must be a stream that goes from one unit to another. In this case, I care about these two input streams and these two output streams. I don't care about these at all. Out two and out three are not of my concern anymore. I just care about the two output streams from unit two because these are the streams that cross the boundary. Or we can apply it to a single unit, like unit three, and in this case, I care about this stream because it crosses the blue boundary and the two output streams. So from this, we can see that it's very, very important to define the system before we do anything, because the definition of the system will decide which streams you are interested in, which streams we are going to include, and which are not included. So this is a very, very important thing. So to see how the degrees of freedom analysis is going to be useful, I'm going to list some points now, and I'm going to uh, go into the details later. So the first thing is that the degrees of freedom analysis indicates whether the available information are enough to calculate all the unknown variables or not. So this includes the whole process, the whole process. If all the information in the whole process are enough to calculate all the unknown variables or not. And this is very important thing. Unfortunately, it's not part of the curriculum of this course. We don't cover this um, in the syllabus. However, I think it's very important. So I will put a link in the description of this video to another video that I recorded before that describes how you can do this. It's put in some details, so it's going to be really helpful in case you are interested. And I really recommend that you watch this video. The second is that it tells us which units are solvable with the given information and which is not, which is very expected. The third point, which is the most important point in my opinion, is that you can use the degrees of freedom analysis for the process to put a strategy of solution based on the information that we have. Which means that before you even start solving anything, you can know that you will solve the first unit, which is the first unit that you're going to start with, and then which would be the second, which would be the third, and which would be the fourth, until you finish the whole process, which is an interesting thing. It's a very, very interesting thing. So you can have a very clear plan from the very beginning without even solving anything. And we will see this in more details in the this example. So for this example, we have 3 units: unit 1, unit 2, and mixer. We have 7 streams, and all the information that we know are already listed in the flow sheet. So what we will do, or what you would think we will do, is we will do the degree of freedom analysis for each one of the units, which is what we are going to do. And we do this by calculating the number of variables minus number of given variables minus number of equations minus number of relations, and we calculate it for everyone. But to make it more organized and to make it easy for us to understand and to deal with, we will put it in a form of a table. So in this table, we will have columns. Each column represents one of the units: unit 1, mixer, unit 2, and the overall as well. It's also possible to do this. And for each one of the rows, we have one of the terms in the degrees of freedom analysis equation. So we have here the number of variables, the number of given variables, the number of equations, the number of relations, and finally the degrees of freedom. So what we'll do is we will just fill in the blanks. We will put a number in each one of these empty cells, and finally we will calculate the degrees of freedom for each one of them by subtracting these 3 columns, three cells from the first one, for this and for each one of them. So it's the same thing that we did before, but in a tabulated form. So let's take it one by one. So the first unit that we have is unit 1. So we care about this boundary, this unit. So what goes in and out of this unit are stream 1, 2, and 3. So now let's count the number of variables. We have here 2, because we have 2 components. We have here 2, we have here 2, so this is 6 variables. The number of given variables here are 2, because one of these compositions is dependent on the other. So we have the flow rate and one composition as independent information. So these are 2. And then we have 2 here. So we have 4. And then we have 2 equations. I can write an equation on A and equation on B. So it's going to be 6 variables, 4 given variables, 2 equations, and no additional relation. So the degree of freedom is 6 minus 4 minus 2 minus 0, which is 0. Now for mixer 2, we have these streams 3, 4, and 5 are the streams that are of interest to us. So the streams contain how many variables? So we have 2, 2, and 2, so we have 6 variables. Number of given variables are 2, just 2 of these 3 numbers, just 2 are independent. And we have 2 equations, so it's going to be 6 minus 2 minus 2 minus 0, because I don't have any additional relations. And finally, the degree of freedom is 2. For unit 2, the streams that we are interested in are streams 5, 6, and 7. I'm sorry. So for stream 5, we have 2 components. We have 2 components. We have 2 components. So this is 6 variables. We have 2 given variables. We have 2 equations. It's the same like in the previous unit. So we have 2 degrees of freedom. Now let's take the overall loop. So the overall loop is what includes all the units. So we only care about streams 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7. 3 and 5 are not of interest because they don't cross the boundary. So the number of components that we have, or number of variables, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 variables. And we have the given variables are 2, 4, 6, 8. So we have 8 given variables. We have 2 equations, no relations. So this makes the degrees of freedom is 0. So this is what we have after filling the cells of this table. And now looking at this table, we will be able to get a lot of information. So the first information is we know which units can be solved from the very beginning. We can start with unit 1 or with the overall. The second is, which is a very important thing, is that we can plan for the next step. For example, if I say that I will start with unit 1, Then after I solve unit 1, I'm going to calculate the components or the variables in stream 3. So I will have two information in stream 3 that were not available before. These two information are going to be added to the information we have in the mixer. So this will add two information here, making the degrees of freedom of the mixer 0. So I can say that after solving unit 1, I will be able to solve the mixer. And if I solve the mixer with the knowledge of stream 3, I will calculate stream 5, the variables in stream 5, which means that I know two more information that I can give to unit 2. So this makes the degrees of freedom of unit 2, or the number of given variables, 2 plus 2, which makes the degrees of freedom 0, which means that I can solve unit 2. So by just looking at the table and the flow sheet, I'm able to put a very clear plan for my solution steps, which unit I am going to start with and which is going to be the second, and so on. Let's say I want to start with the overall loop. Let's see what will be the plan. So if I start with the overall loop, the only variables that I don't know are the variables in stream 7. So if I calculate the variables in stream 7, these are two information that are given to unit 2, which makes the degrees of freedom of unit 2 0. So unit 2 is solvable. So I can solve unit 2 to calculate stream 5 variables. So stream 5 is two extra information that are given to the mixer. So I can solve the mixer to calculate the components in stream 3. So this is a very interesting thing. I can go from unit 1 mixer unit 2, or from overall unit 2 and then mixer. So anyways, I can plan ahead of time before I start the solution, just because I have all the degrees of freedom in one place, which is a very interesting thing. So uh, let's start with unit 1. The mass balance is going to be very straightforward. So for unit 1, we have total mass balance. We can directly calculate M3 balance on A or B will make us calculate XA3, and then XB3 is 1 minus XA3. Now the important part that I'm interested in is the update of the degrees of freedom table. So this will make degrees of freedom, number of variables here 4, and the degrees of freedom is 0, which makes us able to solve the mixer. Again, the mixer is going to be very straightforward. The total mass balance and one component mass balance. We are done with stream 5. So the goal of this problem is not the mass balance as much as doing the or understanding the degrees of freedom in multi-unit system, which is the main goal of this. So that's why the mass balance is very straightforward. Finally, we have stream 5 calculated, which makes the number of variables here 4 and the degrees of freedom 0. So we can do the balance on unit 2 and calculate stream 7. There is one important point now. So I'm now done with the whole flow sheet. I calculated everything using the balance on unit 1, mixer, and unit 2. So I did it on three units. Now the overall loop is not adding any new information to us. It's just going to be a way of checking on the results. And this is like one important thing to know, that if you have a system that consists of 3 units, so 3 systems would be enough to solve everything. Either if you want to go with unit 1, mixer, unit 2, if you want to go with overall unit 2 and mixer, if you want to go with overall unit 1 and unit 2, if possible, it's going to work anyways. With only 3 units. The extra units that you can, or systems that you can use, will be just for checking, like what I'm doing here. So if I use the overall mass balance, it's going to be all known variables in equals out. So I can do it for just checking that the left hand side equals the right hand side. The same for A, and you can do this for B as well. So this is an important point to keep in mind, that you just need 3 systems for a process that consists of 3 units. Any extra systems would be for checking. So this is all for this problem. Next time we will have another problem for more practice. So I'll see you then.